I'm Dr. Orion Taraban, and this is PsycHacks, Better Living Through Psychology. And the topic of today's short talk is Ask Her Out. So this is an episode for the guys. Today, I'm going to teach you how to overcome your approach anxiety so that you can finally muster up the courage to approach women that you're actually attracted to in order to initiate a date or a sexual encounter. It's actually much less scary than you think, and I have a surefire strategy that always works. But before I get into it, allow me to take a brief detour, the purpose of which should become clear as the episode progresses. My guy, are you a fan of Lord of the Rings? I know, stupid question. Of course you are. Now, some people have looked deeply into this story and have come up with some very compelling interpretations, like some believe it's an extended metaphor for the Second World War, or the elaborate pretext to invent a fictional language, etc., etc. However, I'm here to tell you that the entire Lord of the Rings, like all 3 books, all 12 hours of the extended cinematic experience, is really just the story of one man's journey to overcome his approach anxiety. Because how is the story bookended? The whole thing begins and ends with Sam. When we first meet Sam, we see him staring longingly at Rosie, the buxom hobbitess he has his eyes on, but for the life of him, doesn't have the courage to talk to. Then we pass over this whole narrative interlude involving the Ring of Power, during which time Sam leaves his homeland, suffers trials and hardships, kills and faces death, defeats Shelob in single combat, carries his friend up the slopes of Mount Doom, rids the Shire of Saruman, and restores peace to his village. You know, all that nonsense. All to eventually come back to Sam, once again staring longingly at Rosie Cotton. However, this time, it's different. And you can see it in his eyes. He looks at that woman, and it's as if he realizes that nothing that could conceivably come out of that woman's mouth could possibly be worse than all the things he just went through. And he gets up and strikes up a conversation with her. And before long, they're married with 13 kids. Yes, 13. And they live happily ever after. In fact, Sam's is kind of the only story that turns out good in the end, which is potentially worth noting. In any case, you can now appreciate that the entire Lord of the Rings is really Sam's journey to walk the 10 paces from his seat to the girl of his dreams. And therein lies the secret of overcoming approach anxiety. Namely, do more difficult things. If the scariest part of your day is talking to a woman, then you are playing it too safe, my dude. And more likely than not, this will be apparent to the woman you are speaking to. Whether they are conscious of it or not, women are attracted to competent and capable men. And that competence and capacity matters most when he is under duress and difficult circumstances. So if the scariest activity in your life is talking to a woman, then you are at best untried and at worst a coward. Just telling it like it is. As I've said before, the biggest obstacle in the path of men getting what they want in today's sexual marketplace is cowardice. And while we may all start out as fools, more or less insensitive to the real risks we might be facing, no man begins with courage. That is something that must be cultivated over time through the process of doing difficult things. Trust me, the harder your life becomes, the easier it will be to talk to women. If you're interested in taking your understanding to the next level, I would encourage you to check out the Captain's Quarters, my members-only self-improvement community. Your monthly membership will get you access to a cadre of like-minded, supportive individuals, bi-monthly group consultation sessions hosted by yours truly, and exclusive content that you won't find anywhere else. Click the link in the description for more information. Hope to see you aboard. And there is some empirical evidence to support this. One of my all-time favorite psychological studies is the study of the 2 bridges, which I will briefly summarize. There's a park in Vancouver, Canada, that contains a deep canyon. An old rickety suspension bridge was built over the canyon some time ago that still stands. However, this bridge was deemed too scary for kids and families who ostensibly would also like to enjoy the park, so a sturdy, modern bridge was built over the canyon close upriver. In any case, the study took place on these two bridges. And what the researchers did was plant an attractive young woman in the middle of each bridge who was instructed to ask solitary young men to complete a projective personality test called the thematic apperception test. However, what the researchers were really trying to figure out was how many of these men would ask the researcher out after the interaction. What the researchers discovered was not only were the responses of the men on the rickety bridge significantly more sexual than those of the men on the stable bridge, but that the men on the rickety bridge were significantly more likely to follow up with the researcher after the interaction when compared with the men on the stable bridge, like over 4 times more likely. That's an enormous difference. The researchers determined that this study provided further evidence in support of the emotional sexual attraction link. While the connection between aggression and sexual arousal had already been firmly established, this experiment suggested that other emotions, in this case fear, could also contribute to sexual behavior. It turns out that when a person does risky things, like crossing a rickety suspension bridge, it makes it more likely that he will do other risky things, like asking out an attractive woman. It's like doing the dishes. Your hands are already wet, so what's one more plate? Neat, huh? So the upshot here is to find ways to do more difficult, scary things in order to raise your courage stat. And how does one go about doing that? Easy. You turn toward whatever it is you're currently avoiding. And trust me, everyone is avoiding something, whether it's with their friends or their family or with themselves. Courage, like all virtues, is a habit. The more you turn in the direction of what you're currently avoiding, the more you develop the courage to face what you fear. Most people don't do this. Remember, Frodo's first reaction to learning the truth about the ring was to try to hide it. It takes balls to go to Mordor. It also helps to assume more difficult challenges in all domains of your life. How are you pushing yourself physically? Like, what is your fitness routine like? Are you actively trying to get faster or lift heavier? How are you pushing yourself professionally? Like, what are your financial goals? Are you actively trying to start a business or earn more money? How are you pushing yourself emotionally? Like, how honest are you with yourself? Are you actively trying to push through your resentments and self-limiting beliefs, etc., etc.? The more you take on with respect to your fitness and your finances and your friends, the more likely you're going to see a woman as just another challenge among challenges. It's not scary. It's potentially an exciting opportunity. And if you do this enough times, you actually get to the point where you won't want to do something if it's not sufficiently challenging, like it's too boring otherwise. Challenge is an acquired taste. Most people don't like it the first time they taste it. You kind of have to cultivate a more sophisticated palate to be able to appreciate it. But once you do, it makes other tastes seem flat and bland by comparison. In any case, that's how you ask her out, my dudes. Turn toward what you fear and get in the habit of doing difficult, scary things. Because if she's the hardest thing you do today, you may need to reevaluate what you are doing with your life. What do you think? Does this fit with your own experiences? Let me know in the comments below. Kind of bitter medicine today, huh? And please send this episode to someone who you think might benefit from its message, because it's word of mouth referrals like this that really help to make the channel grow. I know you know a guy who needs to hear this. Other value propositions. Anyone looking to join my free weekly newsletter, for which I write original content, or book a paid one-on-one consultation with yours truly, can do so on my website. There's also my best-selling book, The Value of Others, in which I explore my economic model of sexual relationships, and my private community, The Captain's Quarters, where I host bi-monthly live group consultation calls and Q&As with invited guests from all over the internet. It's a great group. We have a great time. Check it out. The links to everything are in the description below. As always, thank you for your support, and thank you for listening.